You're still watching Market Edge. The local bourse kicked off the new trading week on a strong note. The main index surged 2% on Monday, climbing back above the 6,700 level. Joining us for more in the market, Sandra Araullo, the Chief Investment Officer of ATR Asset Management. Good morning, Sandra.
Good morning, Sandy.
All right, markets anticipating Fed decision tomorrow. That is, of course, to keep borrowing rates steady. That is the assumption, at least. But the Fed speak, though, could set the tone for near-term market performance. Do you expect a change in the messaging, dovish to hawkish, or the other way around?
We would actually love to hear the Fed reinforce that they are more than ready to stick to the guidance of 3 cuts.
Okay.
Although unlikely.
Yeah, chances of that happening now is slim. They're even talking about cuts next year.
Yes, that's the case. It's unlikely. We were expecting at least this meeting for beginning of cuts, but again, it might be disappointment for markets because the data have been coming in still, or at least on the inflation side. There's been a tapering off of the disinflation data, and that's giving them room to keep rates a little bit tighter. But we do think that also increases the risk of policy mistake from the standpoint of managing their ability to manage the U.S. economy towards a soft landing rather than worse off recession in 2025.
Okay, if ever really we're expecting a shift in terms of the tone of the Fed, what's the most dovish scenario there, if not the rate cuts?
Well, maybe September. Okay. They might guide for still rate cuts beginning September. So this is where it gets tricky, no?
Yeah.
We're at an inflection
all right, Sandra.
point, so
okay.
It should not be a surprise that the timing is challenging.
All right, Sandra, you're still there? Sandra? Yes, you seem to be getting a bad connection. Please continue.
Yeah, sorry, I was saying that we're at an inflection point. So the timing is really going to be very difficult to get right. And also, it's a moving target.
Yeah.
So expect really volatility to be present or to be a feature of the markets in the current environment.
Okay, let's talk about today now in the Philippine Stock Exchange. We opened at 67.57. We're down 0.2% from yesterday's close, which was 67.69. Quite an uptick of more than 2% yesterday. I'd imagine our Philippine stocks have been beaten down already very badly, or at least to very attractive levels for the market to start buying again. What were investors buying yesterday? What were they seeing?
We think it's still a broad rally in the sense that the correction is really for the more beaten down names. We think that investors are just picking their spots. No, at this juncture, we're less. We don't want to participate in the speculation. Really, we've had our spots, we've had our positions well in place, and we just deploy according to whatever the program is. So from a speculation standpoint, we're just broadly participating, not necessarily choosing one stock over another.
Okay, and are you expecting today to be a corrections day still, as some may be looking or locking in trading gains from the recent swings, as markets will also be on pause tomorrow for Labor Day?
Yeah, maybe those that have the traders are definitely gonna want to close off positions because of the overnight data or the Fed data that's gonna come out overnight, and the markets are gonna be closed. We really don't know how it's going to shape up. So the traders, of course, are gonna want to take risk off the table. But there are other investors in the market like ourselves. We're not necessarily going in and out of the market at this point. Again, the view is intact for us from a standpoint of direction of where policy direction is headed. The timing, the fine tuning is going to be the challenge, but we don't think that there is going to be a change in the direction of easier policy by the Fed.
All right, let's talk currency now. The weakness, of course, is one concern at hand for the Philippine peso. For Japan banks, however, they have scrambled to intervene through heavy yen buying. That is, of course, to arrest its dive from its 34-year lows. Now, do you see intervention as a strategy by the BSP as necessary at this point to arrest the peso's weakness as well against the US dollar?
I don't think so, because we're still pretty much able to. We're on the same path or direction as the Fed. Again, as much as the BSP is probably just going to use that, you're timing the policy, local policy against the Fed, so that the differential is kept intact at 100 basis points. And in between, there will be fluctuations and kind of past few weeks we saw some weakness in the peso. Why? Because there is a big repricing of what is being expected by the market of what the Fed is going to do. I mean, the beginning of the year, it was an aggressive pricing in of as much as 7 rate cuts. So in hindsight, it's really quite aggressive, and that is that has an effect on FX markets as well. And we've had to weather some of that volatility. I don't think the BSP is necessarily actively going to intervene the same way the BOJ has or seems to have intervened.
All right, Sandra, I'm wondering about inflation now, April inflation in particular, how that is taking shape with El Nino and its effect on food production and even the power supply. How must we price in El Nino now? And how would it impact this second quarter, given that's when the full effects of the weather phenomenon can take place?
So actually, coming into the year, we identified El Nino as a risk to inflation, But over the course of the first half of the year, we've been monitoring, indicators such as water levels in Angat Dam, rice prices, and they have actually been better than what we had penciled in. So from our perspective, the risk is actually mitigated or better managed. We think that the expectation for El Nino effect is actually worse than what's actually playing out. So the wild card, I suppose, is still oil prices. There's been this geopolitical flare-up that has been driving some volatility once again on the supply side as far as oil prices is concerned. So that may play a hand, but not necessarily in El Nino.
All right. Now, what's your trading guidance now for the month of May? Are there any changes in the portfolio mix and the spread that you're considering?
We do think that the spike in volatility in April, middle of April, we were caught off guard by the sudden reaction of the markets to more hawkish Fed, or markets anticipating a hawkish pivot by the Fed. The difference we saw is that, at least on the bond market side, the liquidity kind of really went away, and so it defeats the purpose to try and participate. So we're kind of bracing ourselves for a quarter where on the bond side we might be underperforming from a mark-to-market standpoint. But that the soft landing narrative, I think, in the US is going to be intact, and it will have an environment similar to the fourth quarter of last year, where you have some room for risk assets to gain some momentum back after this volatility spike. And hopefully that translates as well to the Philippine equity market moving back towards the 7,000 handle.
All right. Lastly, Sandra, at ATR Asset Management, you always advocate, or you've been advocating global investing, offering opportunities to more Filipinos who may find, global investments daunting. Now, tell us about this offer and how there are investment and wealth growth opportunities beyond our borders.
Yeah, so we do have a full range of feeder funds to complement local strategy. So we have our local equity markets, local bonds. There will always be a home bias.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the last 5 years, it's shown that when our own markets aren't really delivering or going anywhere because of a very, very integrated global financial market, there are opportunities to be found in other markets. We do think that U.S. exceptionalism is going to continue, and so we have our range of strategies. It can be just equities or an income multi-asset strategy. We do have a lot of options for different risk appetites and investment objectives.
All right, on that note, Sandra Araullo, the main index down by nearly 0.2%, kicking off from 67.57. But take a look at the opening value today, though. It's up significantly at 16.8 billion pesos, while advancers have outweighed decliners, 37 to 21.